Yes, when I have in the studio Honorable Jimbo Inemisit Clement. He represents Abak, Etim Ekpo, Ika Federal Constituency of Akwa Ibom State in the House of Representatives, and he's also the Deputy Chairman, House Committee on National Planning and Economic Development. Welcome to our studio.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you very much for granting us this interview on this auspicious occasion of Nigeria's 63rd independence anniversary. It is now 63 years, as I said.
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly. Is this journey worth it?
Absolutely. I will tell you yes. 63 years ago, this piece of estate called Nigeria was given birth to as a result of the independence in 1960. And from 1960 to date is remarkable. There are things to praise God for. There are things to thank God for. But are we there where we should be? That should be a discussion for another day. But if you ask me sincerely as a citizen of this country, I will tell you, for the fact that from the meager population we inherited in 1960 to the number we are currently rated at, over 200 million, that speaks for positivity. That is a huge market for Nigeria, if it is properly harnessed. And for the fact that I could walk into this studio, drove my car from my house about some kilometers down here, there is no harassment on the road, walked in here, stayed here, and we are having this conversation, shows clearly that there is something to thank God for. Nigeria at 63.
But most likely it is because you are in Abuja. If you were back maybe in the south or in the southeast or in the northwest, let's say Zamfara, I don't think if you will have the courage to come to our studio.
No, it all depends. You see, Nigeria is a very big country. It's vast, with diverse interest population. I take exception to generalize where there are pockets of indifference here and there, for us to use that to proclaim as that is the norms that has enveloped the entire country. No. There are places in Zamfara that people are still having interview, people are still making merriments, people still go into their houses and sleep. There are places in the southeast that people are still making merriments, that a few miscreants there and there that tries to bring the efforts of government and the well-meaning Nigerians into disrepute should not be ascribed to the entire Nigerians as being maybe unsafe. So at 63, we are doing well. And I can tell you with my 10 fingers and my 10 toes, we are doing well. If you observe, Nigeria had independence in 1960. And alongside Nigeria, there are about 17 African countries that equally had independence, though in different months and in different dates. But they all happened in 1960. Look at it. Are you going to compare Nigeria with Cameroon? Are you going to compare Nigeria with Togo? Are you going to compare Nigeria with Mali, Niger, and the rest of them? That is why Nigeria is called the giant of Africa. Because indeed, every African countries look up to Nigeria, and by the grace of God, we've been able to posture that brotherhood, that sense of responsibility for others to look at and look up to Nigeria as indeed the giant of Africa.
Maybe youths watching this program now will say Honorable Jimbo is saying this because he's privileged to be in the National Assembly. Quite a number of youths, millions of them, don't have jobs, and they are the ones, you know, beating the drum of war, beating the drum of separation, that there should be south as a country, north as a country, or southwest as a country, or north southeast as a country. Is there any hope for youths, for your generation, those who are not privileged to come to Abuja, those who are not privileged to be commissioners, those who are not privileged to have job opportunities in CBN, you know, and what have you?
I totally disagree that I'm saying what I'm saying because of the current position I'm occupying. It's very far from it. You know, when you mentioned that you served in Akwa Ibom State in 2003.
Yes.
Fortunately, 2003 is when I got admission into university in my year 1, University of Uyo. From my family, I come from a family size of 10. I am the first. None of my parents and my siblings have ever worked in any government institution. Now, from my year 1, second semester, the realities of my background dawned on me. Nigeria is a construction industry. The length and breadth of Nigeria is construction. Every single day, new sites are opening up and people are working. It will amaze you to know that an average site operatives earns daily about 5,000 naira. How many of the youths are willing to take up this responsibility?
And that is the question. Where did our youth got it wrong? That we now have them as, you know, leaders in crime and criminalities around the world.
And I once said that
Yahoo, cultism, and all that.
I will answer that very quickly. I learned in my secondary school days that agriculture is the mainstay of any economy, and Nigeria was not an exception. Of course, in the early 1960s, when we had independence, 70s, even 80s, agriculture was the mainstay of Nigeria's economy. Then, in 1956, the black gold, crude oil was discovered in Nigeria. And take note, when crude oil was discovered in Nigeria in 1956 in Bayelsa State, is not when crude oil was in Nigeria. Crude oil probably has always been there in Nigeria, but it was discovered as at that time. Now, before that time, agriculture was the mainstay. I recall in 1978, the dollar that is skyrocketing against Naira now was almost at close par. Naira was more valuable than a dollar. But you know what happened? Successive administration began to come into play, alter some things, give some indices, directions. And many of my fathers who were at my age when I was a toddler refused to ask questions, refused to call this set of leaders to account. Why are you doing this? Okay, if you are doing this, what is going to be the ripple effect and how are you going to manage? Naira was petroleum product was increased maybe from 50 kobo to 70 kobo to 80 kobo to 1 naira to 3 naira to 15 naira. Now, the excess, what did we use it for? They harvest the produce from agriculture. What did we use it for? So the moment oil was discovered and the prospect in oil, many people that were agriculturists that were in farms began to wash their hands off agriculture. They all moved to the oil sector, abandoning that viable sector. Now, if you look up the history of creation, when God created man in the Garden of Eden, man was given fruit, trees, plantation to live by. Almost everything in this studio comes from soil. Man was supposed to make agricultural tools from the trees, the plantation that God gave him. But the agriculture that God blessed us with, we abandoned it. The tools, the implement, the machineries that we needed to develop from agriculture to service our oil sector, we abandoned it and we began to import this thing, leaving this viable sector on service. And that is where the gap began. The food that was supposed to sustain our population, we were importing them. We imported rice, we imported maize, we imported grains, we imported everything, and even up till to date, we can't refine our oil. That is a mistake our leaders, as at that time,
Okay, now how are you going to correct it? Honorable, you are now in the House of representatives among the youthful generation.
Absolutely.
What things you think people like you will offer Nigerians from the National Assembly?
It's fantastic. The 10th Assembly is a unique assembly. It's different in all sense of ramification. Personally, I came into where I am today because something happened.
Okay, what is that thing?
In 2014, I was in Abuja here working in one of the construction companies. I was assistant project manager. The president of Nigeria at that time was Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. He gave an instruction to the then Minister of Interior, Abamuro, to recruit Nigerians into immigration service. It was a fantastic thing to do. But the mistake that they did was that they recruited simultaneously across the 36 states plus the FCT at the same time. Then Abuja Stadium is constructed to house 60,000 individual spectators. The people that came in to write the aptitude test or recruitment test, whatsoever test that day, they were obviously more than 60,000. And the process of controlling this crowd was heavy. And because of that, there were a lot of stampeding. People died. Pregnant women had miscarriages. People lost their limbs. They were amputated.
What about that?
I sat where I was in my office, watching the gory pictures being reeled out of the television channels that I was watching. I wept. I shedded tears. I asked myself a question. Is this the best we should have or we can have from a nation as vast as Nigeria? In my own opinion, this was a clear case of leadership failure because everything rises and falls on the strength of leadership. What happened to strategic planning? Why did you not regiment them in batches? So what happened to all the thinking? And it was from that moment I made up my mind that these abnormalities will not go unchallenged. I made up my mind to challenge the government as at that time. And since it was only election that we could retaliate, so I decided to join politics full blast.
That was the inspiration.
In 2019, I ran for the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
President?
Yes, under Social Democratic Party.
You should be around 35 then.
Yes. That was why we betted the not too young to run bill into law. We were part of those with Tony Nwolu, was a House of Rep members at that time in partnership with Yaga Africa. So we betted that because something obviously was going to happen. So in 2019, we said no. A group of young minds said we cannot throw our hands in fatalistic resignation and still allow things to spiral out of control. While I was in secondary school, I was told that I'm the leader of tomorrow. I'm over 40. I'm still told that I'm the leader of tomorrow. When will the tomorrow come? We must seize the tomorrow today. So we ventilated that. Whether we won or not is immaterial, but the message was very clear. So it was because of that we needed to come on board to see how we can begin to navigate some policies of government. And what are those policies? If you look at our health sector, our educational sector, our road infrastructure, how can we navigate them? We must consciously make policies and laws that binds us, cripples us from accessing the comfort that we desire so that we can make it available within our house. How are we going to do that? How can we reposition our health sector? For example, can the current Minister for Health be given instruction from the President that you are not expected to embark on any medical trip outside the shores of Nigeria? So and you are not expected.
You are looking forward to maybe championing things like that. But we have started having issues. You are the deputy chairman. We are rounding up the program.
Absolutely.
I wish you have more. Yeah, but you are deputy chairman, House Committee on National Planning and Economic Development. The Minister of Works is already having issues. Say Nigeria's roads, we have to.
That is resistance.
Cement and all that.
Agreed.
To have them. As I said, national planning. Are we getting it right in our plans?
Obviously, what we have on the table right now is not right.
Okay.
And things has to be done. Just like you mentioned, Minister for Works. He's beginning to introduce ideas, innovation, objectives, to see how we can do things differently away from how we used to do things. And there is resistance. But it should not back out. It should maintain the steam. Because obviously you can't keep driving forward by fixing your gaze on the rear mirror. You are heading to a
all right, thank you very much. I wish we have more time. Thank you for granting this interview.
Thank you
I hope to have you again.
Thank you.
Yes, Nigerians, once again, happy Independence Anniversary.